You've joined me, Pranjal Sharma, on the appointment. I'm talking to Ritesh Agarwal, founder of OYO. Ritesh, you referred to the Thiel Fellowship that you were awarded, and that set you on the path to entrepreneurship as well. Tell us a little bit about that fellowship. What were the learnings that you received from that?
Yeah, just for the sake of viewers who don't know what it is. So Peter Thiel started PayPal, one of the earliest investors in Facebook. If you've seen the Social Network movie, you see the guy who first hands over the check to Facebook founder. That's Peter Thiel. So he's an incredibly sharp guy. He's run this program which called the Thiel Fellowship. He gives $100,000 to 20 students under the age of 20 to stop out of college for 2 years. The catch is, you have to create something that is really meaningful to the world. So I was possibly the first Asian resident, resident one to become a fellow. This was an incredible learning experience because.
How did you come about this?
Yeah, so it was one of my friends who had recommended me to apply. I never knew I would make it because there were very few people from our own residentship of India who had made it to the fellowship. But the questions were incredibly good. So I felt that applying doesn't hurt. But after applying, there were a bunch of interviews that started happening. Again, I got introduced to some great people. So I felt interviews to kar hi lete hain, may not make it. But one day I was called to say that you're going to come to the US for pitching and you're among that select group of which there will be selections. So I still felt I would not make it, but I felt free US trip, best thing in my life. But of course, they were incredibly generous to make me a fellow, and more than that, until the time US trip was the most important one. More than that, I realized that the fellowship was great because you get exposed to some of the sharpest entrepreneurs in the world and you learn some exciting things.
Did you have the OYO idea before or during or after the fellowship?
So it was during that period when I was flipping from Oracle, which was our initial brand, to OYO. What was interesting was that was around the same time is I learned from a lot of other co-entrepreneurs that building something new is very important. So if you see OYO, we are unlike any other company where you can say that you're the US emulation of such company. We are a unique company solving a local problem that never was solved.
Rooted in the regional ecosystem.
Sorry?
Rooted in your own market.
Rooted in your own market. And reality is this is such a large problem that now suddenly there are more than 40 companies copying us outside of India, which is generally the other way around, where Indian companies are trying to do what other companies are doing, whereas we've been able to do stuff which is the other way around. And the second thing is thinking really big. When we initially started, we used to think we would have 10 properties and we would do decently well. But our aspiration of being the world's largest hotel chain has brought us to a place where we are today India's largest by a factor and today 14th largest in the world, and have a clear direction to hopefully building the world's largest hotel chain from this land, especially because of the capabilities that we are building for the first time.
Here, I'd like to discuss a little bit about entrepreneurship in India. Now, you had a great experience through Peter Thiel Fellowship. What are your views on encouraging entrepreneurship in India? How many young kids who may be currently in 10th grade, as you were, and you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or those in their early 20s, how well are they received? What needs to be done to make sure that we have a better conversion from ideas to a business? While there is a lot of excitement and hype about startup ecosystem in India, the reality is a bit more grim.
Yeah. No, first off, I think that last 2 years have been a great opportunity for that. In India, in my mind, the biggest thing that needed to change was the social outlook for entrepreneurs. Nothing better than our Prime Minister Modi actually standing on stage and saying that our country should be a country of entrepreneurs. I mean, when people see that and when parents see that, when the kid comes in and says, the Prime Minister is saying that I should become an entrepreneur, what do you think? It's not that tough anymore to say that my kid will try and become an entrepreneur. Remember, there will be failures. And, in my mind, we should celebrate failures. We as a country have never done that. Because if we celebrate failures, remember the best entrepreneurs in the world have at least failed a few times.
Our policy does not want companies to fail or close.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, the end result should drive in that direction. But I think to begin with, we have started in a great place. But one thing that will be extremely important is what you just mentioned, that the reality also has to start keeping up with the hype that's being created, which means there have to be real companies that are creating real capabilities and products, which people are saying, and globally they're becoming powerhouses as organizations, which are then fueling the entrepreneurial revolution on next level. For example, in the US, when the first entrepreneurial ecosystem got started with Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, and a lot of these people, they generated a huge amount of wealth. And they started investing in new age companies and saying that, how can we make America a country of entrepreneurs? China was a similar example. So the hope is in the next few years, hopefully, India will create relevant entrepreneurs who would be solving really large global problems, seeing whom, and with their investment and support, there will also be a much bigger pie of people who will want and will become entrepreneurs.
But here, what is your advice or suggestion for both policymakers and for people who want to be entrepreneurs, regardless of age? What must they consider today as they become entrepreneurs? It's very easy to say, follow your passion, follow your dreams, live your dream every day, but we have to go beyond words.
So I think naturally in both of these places there are, policymakers first off, I think that is generally very difficult for them to make changes, especially because it's almost like, you've grown up seeing the computers for the first time come, and here's a generation which is just moving so fast and so unprecedented. Sometimes even I, nowadays when the new technologies that are coming in, I'm also struggling to keep in touch because there's so much work going on here at office, right? So the world is just moving really fast. So first off, to keep up to that, my request with policymakers would be to become consistently enablers rather than doers of stuff, which is basically say that what are the 10 things by which I can open the market to basically enable new young people to come in and disrupt or create more items, rather than we going and calling people and saying that you do this, you do that, and so on and so forth. Because, look at, and I'll give you a very random parallel example. Look at Android, right? When Android was created, imagine if they built their own apps. They don't have all these great apps that your phone has today. They just told that it's an open system. Don't do just these 3 things. After this, whatever you want to create, you have independence. And then suddenly there were such innovative things that came about. So my request with policymakers would be to become enablers for innovation, and for young people who are building companies to remember that if you have to reach a place where you can really go and change the world and create an impact, it is a very hard journey. So one, choose to get in there, but choose to get in there with the belief that you are going to be perseverant. Because remember, if you're perseverant and work hard enough, you will definitely reach at a point where you would be creating impact. I have, I've been in this industry/sector for the last few years. Anyone whom I have seen consistently for last 3 years work hard and be perseverant, everyone has reached a place where they are starting to make real impact already. In the initial days, it's tough because you don't see anything moving and so on and so forth, but be perseverant and focused.